So I'm preparing for an ultramarathon right now, a 50-mile ultramarathon. It's a really fun challenge that I'm excited for. I think in the couple months leading up to this race, I've been going through different phases in how I feel about it, in my preparation and my training about it. And I'm definitely getting echoes of my marathon last year, where I'm constantly being reminded that there are often two sides to fall on either side of a certain balance. One side being underprepared, not taking it seriously enough. The other side being preparing too much and trying to control every factor and outcome. I think I have somewhat fallen on both sides throughout the process at different points in time, and I am now a week away without too much left to do. I'm really just trying to soak in the moments of the trail runs that I'm doing to prepare for it, and the day of I'm going to try to soak in the moment of just running for the entire day and not worrying about the outcome or what's going to happen. As I said last year, the worst case scenario isn't that you try it and that you get injured. The worst case scenario is that you never do it at all. So I'm going to try to keep my own past wisdom in my head as I get my mind right for the marathon, ultramarathon next week. Oh, and I'm just in a really beautiful spot right now, so I figured I'd take a video. Is the sun still? Yeah, the sun is on those guys back there. Now you can see them. Snow Canyon State Park, southern Utah. Beautiful, beautiful geological and rock formations. It's the day before the race. I've driven halfway across Utah. I am an hour away from picking up my bib number and registering for the race, which is tomorrow. And I'm excited. I'm also a bit relieved that it's finally here. Last video I took, I was in a really good headspace. I guess I'm in a decent headspace right now, but the last couple of days I have not been. So that can be kind of scary, being mentally struggling the week before a challenge like this. And with those mental struggles, there have definitely been some desires to drop out. Not serious desires, but there's just so much like ammunition that your mind throws at you. Maybe it could be about not showing up for the race or quitting, but it could also be about just shame for not having prepared enough, worry about what might happen on the day of the race, just a general feeling of running away from it. There's a plan in my head at the beginning of the week, and I run away from it in a way. I don't read up on the race information. I don't plan out my nutrition or do enough research on blister prevention, things like that. As I said in the last clip, the only important thing is that I'm doing the race. Everything else is auxiliary. But it's easier to say that than to constantly remember it. So I have been struggling. I have been struggling to remember that just doing this is the only thing that matters. I don't have to do it correctly. There's so many voices in my mind that shame me for not executing everything the way I want to. I'm trying to get to the bottom of like what it really feels like, of like that shaming voice. There's a minimum amount of like embodiment that I have to meet in my mind, or else the whole thing's gonna go to shit, kind of. I'm not sure if that's it, but it's like this feeling of
but the only way I'm going to do this is if I do it with XYZ happening, and this needs to happen and that needs to happen, and that's the only way it's going to happen. So it's been really challenging for me to somewhat let go of expectations. The funny part is, though, it's hard for me to let go of expectations on each day leading up to the race, preparing, but I feel so relieved that the day is finally coming here, because the day of, tomorrow, the day of, I don't actually think that I'm going to be anxious at all. I feel like all of these worries and anxieties are just going to go poof, just disappear away into nothing. Because this whole time, the experience has been this imaginary stressor in my mind that exists in this imaginary realm. But when it's put in front of me, I can accept it. I can accept what it actually is. I can come to terms with reality. Oh, this is how the race is going. Oh, this is how this day is going. And I chose to do this. I signed up for this. I think that will be a lot easier than dealing with my anxieties and expectations for preparation beforehand. So in a way, I'm kind of relieved. And I do have a suspicion that in some ways the race may be easier than my experience of preparing for the race. The experience of preparing for the race that I'm talking about, with the anxieties, expectations, mentally struggling, that's not just tied to the race, that's tied to everyday living. It's tied to so many other problems that are going on in my life. Each individual stressor is connected to each other one. It creates this web of anxiety and mental struggles. So I'm not necessarily blaming the race itself for these struggles. I'm just trying to point out the interesting relationship between the anticipatory mindset and the momentary focus that I will have on the day of, that I'm looking to have on the day of. So, yeah, we shall see tomorrow. It's 5:30 in the morning, and I just read an excerpt from the book Make Your Own Rules. I had a couple extra minutes, and I just figured I'd read something. And it was a 1.5 page story about the author's mother who just had a tremendous life. The point is, I read something really inspiring about living life as our fullest selves, and if we have the option to, why would we not choose to live the kind of life we want? And that's what I'm doing right now. And it's nice to have that reminder. I chose this. This is a dream come true. So, let's get it. Alright, 15 miles in. First video. I decided not to take too many videos because it would break my rhythm to take my phone out constantly. But things are going well. Body feels great. I'm just listening to my body the whole race through. That's the only strategy. Roughly trying to go 5 miles an hour, but listening to the body is the priority. The start was wild. There was a full moon and a beautiful sunrise. So I didn't record it. Probably not going to record the start and finish. Those moments are for me, not for you guys. But yeah, I'll try to get at least a couple more videos in. Honestly, things are going great so far. This is a really beautiful day, cool temperatures, and it's Moab, so I mean, it's kind of hard to be down when you're in a race like this. Just past the halfway point. Body has definitely started complaining. But yeah, marathon down. Hey, marathon to go, roughly. I'm still on my pace of roughly 5 miles an hour, hoping to finish in under 10 hours. We will see. It's probably gonna get a lot harder from here. Woo! We out here. in the pain cave. A little more than 30 miles are down, probably 32, 33, something like that. I've been walking a decent amount, more than before, as my legs start to cramp up quite a lot. And I'm nearing the next aid station, which will mark 15 miles left, and most of that is downhill. So my pace is slowing down, but maybe with that downhill I can still get sub 10. This is gonna be a close one. I can feel it, and it excites me a lot, actually. I'm really excited. I think I'm gonna have to push myself to my absolute maximum limit if I want to get sub 10. I'm gonna try to do it though, for you guys and for myself, but for you guys as well. Oh my god, I'm excited. Bye. Well, I got lost as fuck, and now I have 2.5 hours to run 15 miles instead of 3 hours. Let's see if we can do it. Wow, what an experience. I finished a little over an hour ago. I did not make the sub 10 time, unfortunately. I think I'll go into that later because my phone is on low battery, so I want to make this video short. But wow, that was a crazy experience. It's just crazy to develop a new understanding of how capable your body is when your body is telling you, giving you all these signals that you need to stop and then you need to quit. Really all that means is you've pushed yourself half as hard as you think you have. Beautiful day, beautiful people, what a wonderful community. Oh, I finished in 10 hours and 43 minutes. That was a crazy experience. I'm speechless. I think I'll definitely do another one again. Not anytime soon though, because my body is absolutely dying, but my spirit is full. So I wouldn't have it any other way. But I should wait a while before doing this again. Yeah. Well, we're 2 weeks out from the experience now, and I did not record a video right after, as I said I would, but that's all right. Just watched all the other videos back, and I realized I took very little footage of the race day. The truth is, my hands are quite full with simply living, working, and managing my mental health. Because of that, I take less footage than I would otherwise like to. Didn't have a GoPro, didn't have a selfie stick or anything like that. Lots of ideas for the next time this happens. But for now, this is okay. I did the thing, I recorded the thing. I guess one story I wanted to get across was the funny way my race developed after getting lost. As I said, I had 2.5 hours to run 15 miles, and I think at that point it might have been possible, depending on how I paced myself, how I did my nutrition. Could have been possible. I don't know about with this race and this amount of vertical feet. I'm not sure if it was, but the point is I was making a push for it. I thought it was possible in my mind, and I just started going on my dead legs, forced my dead legs to run, and they obeyed for the most part for about 10 miles. It was a pretty cool experience of having my body scream at me and telling my body to do something else, and having my body be like, okay, well, I guess this is what you're telling me to do now. I gotta stop complaining. That's a large part of what people do ultramarathons for, is to get that experience. And I was just set on this goal of sub 10 hours. I figured I could cut some time at the aid stations if I just skipped the last 1 or 2 aid stations because when you digest something, you have to eat it, and then it has to go through your digestive system before the actual nutrients get into your blood. So I figured once I get to about an hour left, I'm just going to hydrate myself, and I'm not going to worry about nutrition. So we'll get to the consequences of that later. But it was still going well. Got to the last aid station with 4.5 miles left, and it was 9 hours and 30 minutes. So at that point, the impossibility of what I was trying to do was starting to seep in, and I was like, all right, well, it's the last aid station, maybe I should call it, and just stock up on some nutrients, take a slow pace for the last 4.5 miles. But I was verbalizing this as I was going through it, and I just said, damn, 4.5 miles left, 30 minutes, I don't think I can do it. I was going to try to get sub 10. So I said this out loud. There was this wonderful aid station worker who had the best of intentions and saw that I was maybe struggling and just said, you know what, you can do it. I believe in you. And I hadn't fully accepted the impossibility of the task yet. I was right at that leaning point where I just needed a nudge one direction or the other, and you know what? A random aid station worker saying that he believes in me, I guess that is all I needed to be like, fuck it, I'll fill up half my water and make this push. At least the pace would have essentially been like a 5K PR after running 45.5 miles. I just find this really funny looking back on it. So I took off, still on my dead legs, nothing in my stomach. There hadn't been anything in my stomach for a few miles now. Slowly getting harder and harder, but my legs were still obeying me. And then I go across a bend and a turn, and then there's a big old hill up ahead of me. And I'm just at a point where I'm like, well, 9 hours and 55 minutes. I know that I have to go a ways down to get back to the finish line. The finish line is below a large mesa area. I'm still on top of the mesa, and there is an uphill. There is an uphill before I have to go downhill again, and that uphill lasted a long-ass time, and that's around when I gave up, at least on the sub 10 hour mark. So I mostly just walked the rest of the way and managed to regain some motivation and strength for the last mile, half mile, like, yeah, we'll finish it out running. So that was the last 15 miles of my race. I guess I just wanted to share that story. I think a lot was demonstrated in that really funny moment. When I go up to the aid station, I'm like, damn, I had a goal. Reality is catching up to me. I think I'm not going to experience this goal. I think I'm not going to achieve this goal. And just a person who knows absolutely nothing about me being like, I believe in you. That was all I needed. That was all I needed, dude. It didn't make the task any less impossible. It didn't rejuvenate me. It didn't put nutrition in my stomach. It didn't hydrate me. It just made me believe in myself, which sometimes is very useful. A lot of the times it's very useful. I have to believe in myself in order to even attempt something like this. But where I was in that moment, in that race, those words ended up being harmful to me. I find it really, really funny. I think it's very funny. Oh, man. Yeah. And since then, I've now had time to process the race, to process the experience. I didn't have much time to process it right after it ended because I drove back to my home, St. George, pretty immediately. I was absolutely wrecked for the 2 days afterwards, and then on the third day, I went to work in wilderness therapy. I've made a transition in my life to working in wilderness therapy. I'll explain what that is in another video. but you work a week at a time in the backcountry, backpacking, hiking, working with kids who are struggling with many different issues. The point is, the shifts are a week long. It is often a demanding job, and I had about 2 days to process my race before I went into a wilderness therapy shift, and that whole week was not processing my race at all. So I've spent about a week off after the shift ended now, and I've been processing it a little bit more. I'm making the video today. I'm finally putting all the footage together and editing. So now is the time to record the longer conclusion video. It's definitely an experience that cannot be encapsulated in one conversation or even one video. So I'm just trying to get the highlights across. I was really struggling leading up to it. I got sick the week beforehand. I was mentally struggling the week beforehand. I didn't get as much training as I wanted to get in. I didn't have anybody coming with me to support me. Leading up to it, I couldn't think about any of those setbacks or those variables. I was just ignoring all of that. Everything was focused on getting to the start line and having that day. Everything was focused on that. So there was very little energy to even considering my circumstances. But one part that I have been processing after the fact, because I have the luxury to do it after the fact, is how crazy my preparation stage was. Man, God, I have so much admiration for myself for just dealing with a bunch of different life things and still showing up. That's been the theme of this year for me, is just showing up no matter what. Getting myself to the start line, getting myself to wherever it is that I need to be. Physically showing up is the most important thing you can do. There's a famous quote that showing up is 50% of all success. I would argue that it's a lot more than 50%. I love myself a lot, and this experience has given me a lot more reasons to love myself. And that is maybe why I will chase more of these experiences in the future. Let me know if you have had an experience where after the fact you learned that you're more capable than you thought you were, or learned that you had more reasons to love yourself, or maybe an experience that gave you just a deeper appreciation of life. Let me know. I'll see you in the next video.